The rumors were fun for a while. I mean, the Batman would, in hindsight, be set in the DCU, making Robert Pattinson also the Batman and Bruce Wayne for this universe. But unfortunately, Andy Muschietti, the director of The Brave and the Bold, has come out and said they would be casting a new actor for the DCU's Batman. So it looks like we're getting at least two versions of Batman doing their thing at the same time on the big screen. What could possibly go wrong? This is the review of champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions the car has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. First up, showing his beautiful face on camera, Merv. How are you, man?
Fantastic.
Next up, we have the original, Mr. Taylor First. How are you?
Excellent.
And voice only, we have Mr. Lord Deathman. How are you?
I am totally awesome. Thank you.
Mm. Uh, uh, Talking about things that are awesome. Today we're going to talk about Creature Commandos Season 1. It's out now on HBO, HBO Max, or Max, depending on your territory. But before we do, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our forum at sakar.freeforums.net. Just click on the link in the description to set up an account and join our conversation. Be on the inside, people. This is your final warning. We're going to discuss the content of this season in depth. So if you haven't seen the season yet, do that first and then come back to this video. James Gunn has chosen an animated show with virtually unknown characters to the general public on a streaming service which is not available in every country to DPO his DCU. Did it work? Well, let's find out. And I'm going to start with you, Taylor. Did you like the first season of Creature Commandos without going into too much details?
Well, this is, of course, the first installment of the DCU, except for also Peacemaker Season 1. Oh, and as we found out in this show, also Suicide Squad, the movie, which means that the Suicide Squad is also canon, which means that the Netflix Batman must also be canon. Never mind. Yes, I enjoyed this show very much. Overall, very good. I'm just going to roll with whatever they decide is DCU and isn't DCU at this point.
Yeah, just enjoy what's coming and don't think too much. Merv, I know you're a major DC fan. At least you read a lot of Batman comics in the day, I believe. Creature Commandos, did you like it?
I loved it. I'd even go beyond like. I'll say that I loved this show. It's not perfect, but for what it is, it captures all those James Gunnisms and all that stuff, which I guess is perfect for my entertainment because I pretty much every aspect of this show I fell in love with.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't have very many complaints on my list.
Oh, but you do have complaints, which I will hear later. Lord Deathman, you read comics, also DC, even though you're a little bit more of a Marvel man. Did you like Creature Commandos?
I did. I don't know if I can touch the soaring heights of Merv's love for the show, but I really liked it a lot. And honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with Creature Commandos, having read any of those comic books. So I was behind the curve and I knew just as much as anybody else going into the show. But I have to say, Gunn has really done it again here. He's excelled at developing this ensemble cast of monstrous characters. I think each member of Task Force M, the Bride, GI Robot, Dr. Phosphorus, Nina, Weasel, they've all really received incredibly substantial character development in this animated series, which is kind of hard to do. Some live action shows don't really get it as right as he did in this particular context. But I've loved to see all the backstories and the arcs. the emotional depths, how he's balancing the different types of emotional storytelling with a lot of outrageous humor and the crazy animated action. I didn't know if he would pull it off, but I have to say, as far as my initial thoughts on the show and this first season, I think it's a huge success and a great way to launch the DCU.
Yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely love the show. I'm with Merv here. I was, well, I am excited for the Superman movie. That's no, and really looking forward to it. But I had my doubts going in. Like, you really want to start on a streaming service with an animated
Mhm.
show and like that? And it did not disappoint. On the contrary, I thought it was absolutely awesome, and I absolutely loved this season, and I'm so happy it got renewed for season two. Like, you know, uh, yeah. Uh, if this is the level the DCU will be on, I will be very happy to follow this universe and watch everything that comes out in it. Um, well, Murph, um, you have some criticisms, you say, about the season. So let's hear it.
A couple things. Sorry for my cough, and I'm a little bit under the weather. But
We noticed.
whenever whenever I was writing out like the things I liked and the things that maybe could have used some work, I found that they were oftentimes not at odds, but it was like opposite sides of the coin. So like I really loved how character centric this show was, and by that aspect, it felt like plot almost came a little bit second. Specifically with like the Clayface stuff and like the mystery behind that, and it was just either very simplistic or almost inconsequential to the episodes in themselves. And by that I mean, like, I'm not watching it for the big twist reveal necessarily, or like I couldn't even barely remember like why they were there in the first place, other than there's a conflict between two nations, like, but that isn't like, that wasn't the bread and butter. But I do have to say that's I guess a knock, because like I don't even know where the story was going. I just wanted to see these characters at play, if that makes sense. So I do think it was a little light or a little thin on interesting plot elements in that regard. I do think, obviously the little bit of the Clayface reveal was a real fun moment at the end, but like when it was happening, I wasn't even sure where it was going or what it had to do with everything else. But it still, even in hindsight, didn't seem like that big of a deal. It was just like, I'm not even sure why. It's just like this little princess, this little nation who eventually is going to conquer the world. But there just seemed to be some light elements at play that took a back seat to the much more interesting, just watching these characters just be a menace to society in Polkokistan or whatever. There's a few moments which it's a little, for lack of a better word, bleak or unforgiving, or some things that are a little bit like, you're teetering on. Like, I like adult stuff, and I like, I love the show's willingness to be adult and to show violence and sex and all that stuff, and clearly, not for kids. You know what I mean? Despite being an animated show, which is good, it's fine. There's a place in animated shows for that stuff. But there's some moments where it's like, did we really need to see like kids burning up and getting exploded? Like, some of that stuff is a little bit, it's teetering on the edge of, I don't know if I want to watch this part. You know what I mean? Skipping ahead, that sort of thing. And I know that's like, that maybe comes across as hypocritical whenever there's so many other scenes like where you get to see people with their heads blown off. But there is like some facade of a line in my head where it's like, I don't know, this feels a little bit uncomfortable. And I just do think it teeters a little bit on that line. That's that in I'll say Nina. I loved Nina as like the heart of the group, but I still, even after her kind of plot centric background episode, which was the finale, I still don't know why she was on the team. I don't know what she brought to a team of essentially assassins. I'm not sure what strengths she had other than being able to swim. But since she couldn't fight that well enough, that doesn't provide any, real moment there either. So, I mean, I love her as the heart of the team, but I just wish they would have shown that she belonged there alongside people like Dr. Phosphorus or the Bride, as far as like a combat ready, like even if they gave her like some kind of healing properties or something, like I don't know what the powers are in the comics for her necessarily, but I just feel like she didn't make it as much sense as all the others. Everyone else was very combat centric, and she did not feel like that at all. It's just she was just a fish person, and she was great. I loved her character, but I just didn't know how she fit into this group of commandos. But that's pretty much it for negatives. Positives, the list goes on. I love the character centric like storytelling here. I love that you kind of get to know the characters through these backstories as well as the episodes almost at the same time. So there's so many like little moments with individual characters that really just hit home runs for me. I'm thinking like the Bride's montage, whenever you see her and Eric Frankenstein's whole backstory, the GI robot, coin operated boy scene, whenever he's, you see why he was arrested, and then you see what he's doing to the army that Cersei has. Dr. Phosphorus's whole thing, and I love that he was like, he felt like he was the closest to being like an outright villain as like a Batman nemesis or a Gotham City mobster type, but you get to see his soft spot as well, like how he became that, in a twisted way. You get to see that he wasn't always this horrible, person, and then you see later on that like he's not all pure evil, you know what I mean? He's not just gonna burn kids' faces off unless they are his enemies' children, I guess. So there's some fuzzy lines there, but I absolutely loved like getting to know more about all these characters along the way, who, despite reading, I have read quite a bit of DC Comics, but I have not read a single thing about Creature Commandos, and I didn't know who any of these characters were. So this is all kind of fresh for me as well, the whole Creature Commandos thing. And I had plenty of doubts coming in. This is the one you're going to start with. This is your Iron Man of the DCU. It didn't seem like it was going to be a hit. Just on the outside looking in, like it seemed like it was going to be a real uphill battle, but I guess James Gunn came in and did his thing and worked his magic on getting us to care about characters we've never even heard of before. So I thought that was an amazing step.
Yeah.
Have to give a shout out to the soundtrack. I can tell you it's not going to be for everyone, but it created an aesthetic and a vibe throughout all these episodes that I thought just really was great. It was kind of, upbeat and I don't even know how to describe it other than like I'd know it if I heard it again. You know what I mean? And it seemed like it was heavily on that band Go Bordello, or I'm probably going to butcher the name. I don't know how to say it, but I loved pretty much all the songs that they chose and the times that they chose them. Yeah, I really like this show a lot. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. If these characters show up in something else, and presumably there will be a season 2, so I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah. Gunn said that voice actors would cross over into live action as the same characters, so I'm really looking forward to that. Seeing David Harbour as Eric Frankenstein, can't wait how that turns out. Lord Deathman, do you have any criticisms of the season, or
was it a flawless execution?
Yeah.
Lots of executions in that show, but who knows if they were flawless. But yeah, that being said, I don't have like a huge compendium of criticisms about this show. I want to kind of contextualize them more as a glitch where, when you see something, you might just cringe a little bit inside, but they're not legitimate criticisms that I could say, oh, you really need to pay attention to this. It's going to ruin your enjoyment of the show. There's something about the pacing that I can't quite put my finger on in terms of it feeling a bit compressed. Maybe it was just kind of like the episode length. I felt like episodes either kind of ended when I wanted a little bit more or went on just a little bit longer than they should have. So I don't know why I wasn't quite able to get into the overall vibe of the timing. But again, not a huge deal breaker in terms of watching the show or taking away from its overall enjoyability. Um, I like Merv. I think I also struggled with some of the violence and the kind of sexual content being slightly off-putting. And I'm all for hyper-violent content. I've seen people getting it on in all sorts of movies and all that kind of stuff. So it's not about being a prude in that sense, but at some points it did feel a bit gratuitous. Right. So I don't have any kinds of problems with that, especially when you're earmarking content as adult content, usually. But for some reason, I think Gunn has this way of pushing it right to the edge of where you're just gonna not be comfortable with it. And I wish he would have reeled it back just a little bit.
But maybe that's his goal.
True.
And actually, it would make sense that you would not be comfortable with like creatures doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think a part of it that does go towards that. But again, not something that anyone should be overly concerned about if you're thinking about jumping into the show and you haven't quite seen it yet. I for one thought that the relationship between Rick Flag and the princess felt a little tagged on to me. It didn't really enhance the story. It wasn't, like totally something I hated watching, but it felt like something that I kind of wanted them to just get past kind of mentally to get to some of the other parts of the story that I was
Yeah,
just a bit more interested in.
I would call
And
it flagged on, but that's another story.
there you go. There you go. So, overall, this felt really similar to Gunn's previous works. I think we're all at this point very familiar with his style and his formulas and the way he uses music and that kind of stuff. And maybe the only other sort of glitch that I have about the show is that I was hoping to get something a little bit fresher in terms of the formula. But he does bring a lot of innovation when it comes to this particular group of characters being sort of rooted in monstrosity. That did make the show feel original, So those are my only criticisms. And again, you could totally toss those, into the meat grinder and watch the show and be 100% entertained all the way through.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I liked, that is a huge list, which we don't have a whole lot of time for on this on this show. But what I will do is kind of just pull out some of the moments that I thought were extremely awesome on this show in terms of character moments. I love the bride's tragic backstory. I thought it added a huge amount of depth to her character. I liked Eric Frankenstein's kind of philosophical musings and his persistent pursuit of the bride. I thought that stuff was really awesome. Nina having this like gentle nature that contrasts with her monstrous appearance. Like that's what you come to James Gunn for, that kind of thinking, that level of innovation. And my top character moment for the show and the season was really Weasel's surprisingly emotional backstory. That was just incredibly well written stuff. That was awesome. And I think would have translated well to even live action. So I hope we see some bits of that as the DCU moves forward. In terms of action sequences, GI Robot's heroic sacrifice and sort of subsequent return in the upgraded form, just awesome. Dr. Phosphorus using his radiation powers to kind of burn through those tanks and enemies. Great action sequence there. And I also like the bride's fighting style, the way they did the animation there. She's kind of acrobatic and lethal at the same time. Great plot twists in this show. Clayface, spoilers if you haven't seen it already. Grandmaster warned at the beginning. I'll warn again. But Clayface's deception, having had impersonated Professor McPherson, that was awesome. The princess's true intentions when you get that turn, also incredibly awesome. So Again, I could go on and on and on, but cameos, Easter eggs, the Batman silhouette thing. I'm not even a huge Batman fan, but hey, that went over well with me too. And I think the biggest sort of cameo Easter egg, which everyone will find out when they check this out, is the introduction of the new team members. In terms of King Shark and I forget the other two folks that we got, but looking forward to this new iteration of the team in a second season, which I certainly hope that they do and green light. I haven't gotten the word about an official green light, but I'm sure that's just a formality at this point, given how well it was received. Great showing. Awesome. Yeah, overall.
Yeah, it helps that the guy writing this stuff is also the one who needs to green light it. So,
Right.
And did you appreciate the Marvel reference in the last episode?
Oh yeah, I totally love it when both universes do that kind of stuff. I'm always a fan looking for that, and uh, yeah, totally think that worked incredibly well. I know some people had a hard time with it, but I don't know why. So
Yeah, but I actually, when I first saw Dr. Phosphorus, I immediately went, "Hey, that's Ghost Rider." So the fact that she shouted that, she did that shout, the bride did that shout out in the finale, that was awesome. I mean, Marvel has referenced DC in their movie Eternals as well.
yeah,
Both, I
yeah.
think, both Batman and Superman were referenced in that movie. So I think, especially with Gunn making that switch, we should get over this kind of stuff and just enjoy what we get as fans of the genre, and just hope that it will do well, because if it does well, we get more, etc. That's always a good thing. Taylor. You've heard Lord Death Man and Merv ripping this show apart with their criticisms, but mostly praising it, of course. You want to join?
Sure. Well, I thought she was referencing Top Gun when she said Ghost Rider, so that's how lost I was at that point. It was only later reading online that people mentioned that it's a Marvel reference, and I'm like, I love Ghost Rider. Why didn't I think of that when I was watching it? But I didn't. I only thought of Top Gun. Yeah, I agree with Lord Deathman and Merv. Um, the using each episode as a backstory for a character, okay, you know, not exactly what I was looking forward to going into the show, but they used it well. They used it to make people care about these characters, and I'm okay with it as long as, like, when I see these characters again, like if they bring them into live action or something, I don't want to see or hear those backstories again. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We've been given them once. That's enough.
Yeah.
All right. Otherwise, you're wasting my time here. If the other people didn't watch this cartoon, it's on them. All right. They are the ones who are
But
not
would
going to
you
know
be
what's
okay
going on.
if we get another backstory on Bruce Wayne, like see Thomas and Martha be killed again and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can't have that scene too many times. We've definitely got to see that again. No. But I agree with Lord Deathman. I really liked the whole story of the bride and Frankenstein. Those two, of course, were the most developed throughout the season. They did a really good job of it. Dr. Phosphorus, he's kind of a standard Batman villain, but they did a good job. His backstory was also enjoyable. Weasel, I mean, we know why he ended up getting arrested and imprisoned. We still don't know what the heck he is or where he came from. So I'll be okay if they ever fill in those blanks, or if they don't. I don't really care either way. I did like a lot of the other more well-known DC characters that just are referenced or appeared briefly, like Clayface and Batman, Sergeant Rock in the World War II flashbacks. I used to read Sergeant Rock comics when I was a kid, so that was cool. I like the GI Robot. I'm glad they put him back together and upgraded him. I liked the scene in the final episode where Nina was swimming to go and kill the princess, and she was swimming directly underneath the princess. It looked very much like inspired by some scenes from Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Universal classic. Looked very cool. And then she died. So, but as Merv was saying, though, the story arc of the season was really okay. Cersei's trying to kill the princess. The princess is good. Go save her. Oh wait, the princess is bad. Go kill her. oh no, we were wrong. The princess is good. Don't kill her. Oh, it turns out she is bad. Kill her. That was the whole story arc of the entire season right there. She's good, she's bad, she's really, really hot. She's good, she's bad, kill her. Okay, that's kind of the whole thing right there.
Yeah, she got cold in the end.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, though, I mean, the writing is tight. The dialogue was clever. Again, James Gunn is really good at that. He's really good at writing. He's really good at interactions of characters. Rick Flag, I thought, was really good. And in being the only human, human on the team, yet he was still very capable. He was very smart. He was somewhat exasperated with his team members at times. That's fine. So again, the way the story was, the show was executed, all really good. As far as the excessive gore and sex and stuff, I mean, we've seen it before. We saw it in Suicide Squad. We've seen it in Invincible. We've seen it in The Boys. Superhero gratuitous violence stuff. Yeah, I could take it or leave it. I don't really care if they have it or not. That's not going to translate to all of the DCU though. If they try to do that, like in the Superman movie, if Superman starts to crushes someone's skull and we see the eyeballs pop out, that's not going to work for me. All right,
Yeah,
so
and then a song plays.
Right, if they keep it to just these side characters in their animated world, I'm okay with that. But they can't build a successful cinematic universe on that. Okay, they're gonna have to appeal to a broader audience.
Yeah,
and I think they will. I'm hopeful that they will. But again, the show's really enjoyable. I'm glad. I shouldn't say I'm glad. I like the stakes that a character died, and I'm assuming she's gonna stay dead. I hope she stays dead. They can use the actress in live action as a different character if they want to keep her employed. That's fine. But I think it'll cheapen the show a little bit if they don't have actual good guys die or team members die. And of course, they always have the opportunity to bring in more team members so they can keep the show going as long as need be. But overall, yeah, I mean, it was enjoyable. I was smiling and laughing and intrigued throughout the whole season. So I'm totally on board with it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna round the panel before we go to rating. I'm just curious, Taylor, and I'm gonna start just with you. Do you think it works that for the DCU that they started with this show on a streaming service, or are you thinking, well, the actual start of the DCU is gonna be Superman that comes out in July?
I mean, I think really the de facto actual start of the DCU is going to be Superman in July. I'm sure this show has had success on Max, but everything is relative. The audience for the show has got to be relatively small compared to, what you're going to be expecting to go out to the theaters around the world and see Superman. So I think this is just kind of I don't know what to call it, a test run, a dip your toes in the water, something that we could get out fairly quickly and remind the diehard fans that yes, we're still here. We are building a DCU. Here's a taste. I think it's more like that.
What do you think, Lord Deathman?
I think it was smart. First off, I think strategically James Gunn has been doing an excellent job at just managing fan expectation and strategizing how he's going to start his universe. DC is known for having high quality animated features and adaptations of, a lot of the great classic graphic novels and storylines out of the comic books. And I think what he was trying to do is kind of say, here's a new marker in the sand in terms of DC animation, in terms of it being something that is linked to the DCU. And what he gets out of that is now everyone can follow it. It's not like you have some of the fandom saying, oh, these animated shows are where I'm at, and that's great, and that's all I do, right? And some people who are like, yeah, live action. I think he's trying to take steps to unify his fandom. But that being said, Superman to me is the de facto start of his DCU because it is his first full-length live action feature starring a major character out of that universe. But It's nice to have Creature Commandos as something for fans that want to dig deeper, that have the time and the patience, and say, hey, I'm really into this universe. I'd love to see what went on with Creature Commandos, and I'm gonna check it out on Max. But you could take it or leave it. I think it's going to be something where it deepens your experience if you're a super fan, no pun intended. But if you're just here for the live action, it won't hurt you too much not to, check out Creature Commandos.
Okay. Merv, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone else. I think like this is it was kind of a no lose possibly situation where like it's animated, it's side characters, it's not the mainstream ones. So let's just say it failed. Like people were still going to go see Superman to really know if the DCU is going to start strong. But I mean, at least regarding us, I think we all see it as a success. So now I think that's more excitement for the DCU and more, hope and promise and that sort of thing. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a what do they call it whenever you like silently open something? It's like that for the DCU, but Superman is like where the bar is going to be set. That's what everyone's I think is going to look back and see as the start officially.
Yeah, I agree with the panel. Also, I'm not going into further details. Well, then let's just move on to a rating. And maybe while you rate it, you can also say what your favorite episode was. That would be nice. So I'm going to start with you, Lord Deathman. Can I have your number for season 1 of Creature Commandos and maybe your favorite episode?
Sure. I struggled with this in terms of giving it its rating, but I think I'm finally going to land on an 8. I think this was an incredibly strong, episode 0, if you will, for the DCU. I think it's great writing, great animation. I think the storytelling had a lot of depth, great character, great action. So everything that I would want to get out of a genre piece like this, I got and more. And I also want to do what Merv did, which is call out the musical choices, which James Gunn is typically good at. Although I will say that I like the music more in the moment of what was happening in the context of the show, but found myself like if I tried to make a playlist out of all those songs and just listen to them during the day, it didn't quite have the same impact. So my favorite episode, to answer the question directly, I think is the one with Weasel, because I do think that just had the most kind of tragic dimension to it, and it kind of peeled back some layers about the character. But at the same time, I still want to know more because he didn't quite answer all of the questions that we have about Weasel. So I think by and large, that probably was my favorite episode as a whole. But there are lots of great moments throughout all of the episodes. So I give the series as a whole an 8.
Yeah. Well, Weasel is still alive. Spoiler. So we will get more of him, I hope. Taylor, what's your number for season 1 of Creature Commandos? And quite possibly, can we get your favorite episode of the whole 7?
Yeah. I agree with Lord Deathman. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for this season. One other thing I want to mention, the opening credits sequence and the music. I liked it. And for some reason, every time it started, it reminded me of an animated show on Netflix, which is called Disenchantment. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but the music is similar in tone, and it just I couldn't stop thinking about it every time the opening credits rolled. But I did like the opening credits a lot. As far as favorite episodes go, it's tough. I really like the GI Robot episode. And I also really liked the episode, and I'm not sure which episode it was. I don't know if it was the same one that did the bride's backstory or if it was the one after that, but it was the episode basically where they had the big fight confrontation with Cersei and her idiot henchmen. I don't know why she hired those idiots as her henchmen, but I like it. Nice seeing them get killed. But I thought that was a really good action scene, especially between Cersei and the bride herself. and I thought that was well executed. So that was one of my favorite episodes. Those two.
Yeah, that was the second episode, I think, that dropped in the first week, together with the first episode. Merv, can I have your number for season 1 of Creature Commandos, and your favorite episode?
Yep. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. It really only loses points for some of the small things I mentioned. Favorite episode. Again, it's hard because I think a lot of the episodes have like really strong moments in them. But I'm probably going to go with the episode 2, which is the one that does the bride and Frankenstein's backstory. That was the one that immediately hooked me in, and I just absolutely love that montage showing, over the years, how Eric is constantly stalking her and trying to win her over and then fighting her, and it's just this nonstop thing for like 150 years or however long it was. Um, Honorable mention, I guess, just the one that hasn't been mentioned yet, Priatel Skeleton or whatever, where you get Dr. Phosphorus's backstory. It's pretty straightforward, his backstory, but more importantly for me was like the stuff that was happening in present day with the little girl. Whenever he sees the little girl comes down and she's hungry and stuff, that gave me like Con Air vibes. Whenever I can't remember the actor's name, but Garland Green comes across this little girl playing in her yard, and you're like, is he gonna kill her? Is he not gonna kill her? And then in the end, he's just like the most like likable, trustworthy person in the world, and he's just like, I just need to know where the castle is. And they're like, that way. I just really like that moment for him as a character in particular. So mention those two.
Okay, Taylor, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, I agree with Merv 100%. They did a really good job of blending back and forth between the past and the present in that episode. And the other thing about that episode was the guy who turned him into Dr. Phosphorus and killed his family was Rupert Thorne, who I only know from Batman the Animated Series. I don't know if he's in the comics or not, but he was drawn exactly like he is in Batman the Animated Series.
I'm gonna go also 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this season. I loved, all the characters. I like the twist. I loved how they set up most episodes where you get a background story while stuff is happening in present day. I really thought it was great. I actually enjoy that it is a little bit more violent and a little bit more graphic. That sets us apart from other stuff in this genre, which is also fine or great. But this is different, and I like it. And yes, I do not need to see Superman dropping his underwear, whether it's above or underneath his suit. Anyway, 9 out of 10 for me. My favorite episode was mentioned also already. That's the one with Weasel. I really loved his tragic backstory, and it's great. That will conclude the review of Champions on Creature Commandos Season 1. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, help us out, like and share this review, and subscribe to our channel. And join our forum on carterfreeforms.net. Just click on the link in the description, set up that account, and join the conversation. Tell us how wrong or how right we are on the board directly. You can also check out our review series for Skeleton Crew that's currently running on our channel. And next week, we're going to start a brand new series. What that is, we keep under wraps for now, but be on the lookout for it, people. For now, I thank you all, also on behalf of our champions. And we want you to know that we love you, like Eric loves his bride. Bye!